Is this the Karizma that represents 20 years of progress since the first one? It's made by India's biggest motorcycle manufacturer. Does it do enough? This MotorInc View has led us to a lot of soul searching, and you'll see why in a moment. The flagship is a company's top product. The dictionary says finest, largest, or the most important of a group of products. And that's literally where the Karizma story started. There was nothing else like it. And this XMR, it does have some of those attributes. I think the chassis is beautiful. It flicks into corners wonderfully. I thoroughly enjoyed the brakes. And the suspension, it's a sports bike, but it doesn't behave like a Mars bar left in the fridge for too long. It's also a striking and attractive design. So why does it sound like the next thing I'm going to say is but? Let's start at the top. And the shining highlight of the Karizma, screaming into the sky like a powerful searchlight above everything else, is the chassis package. There's one division at Hero R&D that is clearly a cut above. In traffic, the Karizma is weightless and it flicks from gap to gap, feeling no effort at all. And it'll remind you of the Pulsar 135 LS. Remember those? This is a 210 and it feels like a 135. Amazing. Out on the highway, faster speeds, longer corners, it's still a very agile motorcycle, but it's not unstable in the corners. You will have to get used to how quickly it likes to take lean angles, before which you will struggle to flow from corner to corner on a twisty road. But once you do, it's very good. And the brakes are good. Dual channel ABS is your backup. There's grace and ability that you can really use. But the XMR also defeats the expectation that if it's a sports bike and it handles really well, then the suspension must absolutely be rock hard, because they've been clever about it. So it does absorb the bumps, and if the rear was only a little bit softer, I think you'd be really happy with it. As sports bikes go, the combination of reasonably effective suspension with a reasonably comfortable riding position is actually a good one. Because this is not a sports bike light, which, say, Pulsar RS200, nor is it super hardcore on comfort like, say, the R15. To me, the benchmark for the balance between very sporty but reasonably comfortable today is probably the RC200, and that comes very close. On the new trellis frame sits this flashy, aggressive fairing with this striking modern headlight design. In the real world, the XMR stands out. And I think it's the shape, the stance, and the yellow color, all of which come together. This design has a lot going on, and it sort of adds up even if you don't see the etch in the taillight, which I still can't see, but Hero marketing always seems to. It also has a bunch of very nice details. The headlight, these are excellent mirrors. The rider's seat, it's nicely shaped, it's comfortable, and it looks good. And they all add to the sense of premium, which is rapidly diffused by the quality levels when you look closer. The panel gaps are generally uneven. The plastic panel that wraps over the black metal fuel tank, it's giving that tank a bro hug at the very best. I like the shape of the new switches. Some of them stick. The new LCD display, it's not an appealing design. It's not the easiest LCD to read. And if the sun is anywhere behind you, it's just not bright enough. And the display itself looks tiny because it's sitting in an ocean of plastic cladding when you sit on the bike and look down at the cockpit. And it gets worse. The pillion foot peg and the starter motor casing are both showing signs of corrosion. There's even a couple of rusted bolts in there. And these bikes, they are brand new. It makes you wonder that when these units were being produced, were the quality guys on sabbatical? Unfortunately, there's also a lack of attention to detail. I'm not going to go on and on. I'll give you one example. The screen's brightness is set into automatic day and night modes. Automatic, it turns the headlight on when it detects darkness. That works. Night mode, the screen becomes dimmer and the headlight stays on. It works. But in day mode, the screen becomes brighter and the headlight stays off even after it gets dark. So if you didn't know that this is a setting that's causing it, you're going to use the pass flash switch and ride around the city until you figure out what it is. And if you think we're not happy with the Karizma, remember we haven't even started discussing Hero's first ever liquid-cooled DOHC engine yet. On our short first ride in Gurugram, we were on open roads at high speeds and the XMR felt fine. The meat of the performance is 7,000 to 9,500 RPM. Here the bike is much nicer, but the engine is kind of loud, it can sound thrashy, and at the top there is some amount of strain. In the city, this engine is interesting. It's quicker than the R15 and you still might need a gear change to pass something if you're in a hurry. But otherwise, it's quite happy to be laid back or quick in traffic. Just remember that the most interesting part of the performance, it's at the top. Out on the highway, the experience is better. 100 kilometers an hour, it's just under 7,000 RPM, which is high, but you can get used to it. And if you do, you're in the meat of the performance band. Overtaking things is reasonably easy, and the engine is loud, but the buzz is relatively low. But remember, the KTM Duke 200 is 4 kilos lighter, has less torque, similar horsepower, and it always feels more urgent, more fast than the Karizma. And the XMR's natural rival, the R15, it's 20 kilos lighter. The XMR is a bewildering mix of the great and the average. I know that Hero is going through a painful transition from being a hardcore, sales-oriented commuter maker to a company that sells a large number of commuters but is looking for a solid place in the Indian premium space. This transition will have pain, internal struggle, and a lot of rethinking must happen. Hero is a super tanker changing direction. It's going to take a while, it'll be a big circle, and I don't think the turn's going smoothly. The design and chassis teams have clearly hit their stride, but quality, attention to detail, it needs attention to detail. Hero's larger engines haven't turned out great, and if you think about it, the X440's engine, unsightly exhaust and all, is actually the nicest engine of the crop. And in this video, we are not going to go into service. We know Hero's premium customers can feel lost in the crowds of commuters coming to the workshops or into the premium showroom experience, which is currently under construction. The XMR underlines what the R15 taught us, that sports bikes are perhaps the hardest format of motorcycles to make. You give away so much utility, practicality, tractability, consideration for pillions, that any flaws are automatically glaring. But once all of the cruft is stripped away, then the center stage belongs to the fast engine and the sharp chassis. And then the dance begins. Sports bikes become truly great, truly memorable when the engine's performance is matched step for step by the chassis' ability, when the two dance together as if connected by telepathy. That balance is what the R15 version 1 had, 2 did not, 3 and 4 returned to. The Karizma XMR is the largest and perhaps the most important product that Hero makes in the premium segment. But to be the flagship, it needs to be the finest.